So to begin, my name is Nia McAllister. I'm the Visitor Experience Manager at the Museum of the African Diaspora in San Francisco, and it is such a treat to be hosting this series and have you all here this evening. And so before we get into the logistics of this evening's open mic, I do want to acknowledge the time that we're living in. Moab stands in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, as there are multiple pandemics killing us, including the ongoing systemic violence against Black people. We honor and mourn the senseless murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, Jonathan Price, and so many others who have lost their lives at the hands of police brutality and racial injustice, including those whose names we do not know. We also stand united with the global movement to end SARS in Nigeria, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, and we mourn the deaths of the peaceful protesters who have been killed at the hands of Nigeria's army and police force throughout the protests. We want to acknowledge that as this list of names continues to grow, we will continue to say them and continue to bring awareness in the fight for real justice for the global Black community. I also want to acknowledge the spaces that we're occupying. Though we are gathered virtually, many of us are settlers, immigrants, or descendants of those who were forcibly brought to this continent. And our institutions were founded upon exclusions and erasures of the indigenous peoples whose lands we are located on. It is with deep respect that Moab acknowledges that even in a virtual space, our people, our work, and our network servers are all on native lands. And so we thank the indigenous peoples of the Bay Area and beyond who've stewarded this land throughout many generations. And it is so wonderful for me to be able to help facilitate this space in which we can collectively recognize our grief, our anger, our exhaustion, and also seek comfort and joy in each other's company. And so everyone is welcome in this space, and it is of the utmost importance that we continue to center and respect and create spaces to amplify Black voices. And I think it's important that we continue to build these spaces and find community through healing and art. So for those who are new or those returning, I ask that throughout this event, please do keep your microphones on mute if you are not the person speaking. However, because open mics and poetry spaces are off, affirmations are essential always. And so I want us to be able to affirm each other's words and music and all that we share in this space this evening. So I encourage you to please use the chat, write lines that stand out to you, shout each other out. Air claps and snaps are also welcome. I think it's important that we continue to uplift each other, as it is a vulnerable thing, sharing in a space like this. I will be introducing each reader beforehand. So I'll put the lineup for this evening in the chat and then call out each name before. Each of the open mic readers will have 4 minutes to read, and then we'll move on to the next reader. And about midway through the open mic, we will have our wonderful feature for this evening, Wanda Sabir. Wanda will be sharing her many stories and poetry and words with us. And so I'm very excited. And I would also like, before we jump into it, I would also like to thank Art Bridges for their generous support in continuing to sustain all of this dynamic programming that we have at Moab, and also acknowledge that as Wanda is our feature this evening, tonight's open mic is co-presented by the Maafa San Francisco Bay Area organization, and Wanda will be sharing more information as well when we get into her feature. And so with that, I would like to start us off and introduce our first reader for this evening. We have Aquila Lewis Ross. And I would also like to give a special shout out because it is her birthday today. And so this is a wonderful way to kick our open mic off this evening. So welcome to the mic and a happy birthday.
Thank you, Nia. Hey, everybody. My name is Aquila Lewis Ross, and I'm really excited to be here. Today, I turned 42, yay. Life has been something, really something. it's kind of hard to define exactly what it has been for me, but I am happy today. And I'm going to share with you a poem, and then I'm going to have to get off real quick because I'm also curating an event right after this. And Nia is going to be one of the featured after she finishes with y'all. So here we go. I'm an author, a journalist, spoken word artist. I'm also a mama of a 3-year-old. And this is the first book that I birthed called Stop Hurting and Dance, published by Pacino Press. And the name of my poem is She Rose. Out of the ashes, she rose to expose the truth. For years, the story was untold. She rose from her slumber after burying her pain, sniffing cocaine, imprisoned by years of sexual violence. She's broken and welcomes silence. She has nothing to say. She's been here before, and her ancestors too are used to this routine. Their words are useless anyway. They're invisible. Her gut is sore from the vibration of the blues. The tone is familiar to a few or too many. I've lost count. I have a fascination with the reincarnate, and 9 lives were added to her, passed on for generation, beginning with slavery. But pick yourself back up again and do it all over again. You must. So your babies will praise you and teach you how to dance again. So that's for all of you who are trying to figure out how to get your dance back, how to get your song, how to figure out what is your story. Just go back and do it all over again because you already know. And your babies are looking for you to tell your story. Thank you guys so much. Bless all of you on your journeys, and we'll see you again.
Thank you so much, Aquila. And I'm very excited to be joining you again later this evening to continue this poetry marathon and in celebration of you. Next up to the mic, I would like to introduce Lanisha Murphy. Welcome, Lanisha.
Thank you, everyone. I'm excited to be here tonight. This is a piece of prose, so I'm just gonna jump right in. I had to catch my breath as I put my therapist face on. You see, a therapist face is more than just a game face. It is not a simple blank stare. It is a face that is neutral, with a slight tinge of curiosity, empathy, and attentiveness. It awaits the next sentence, but not too eagerly as a gossip would, but gingerly, caringly, except this face belied the devastation inside, the imploding of a world of make-believe, a world that you waited weeks and weeks, and then another to let me inside. I could only make guesses and summarizations at the state of your affairs. I know you well enough to know that something was amiss. Things could not be torn asunder because you had not yet chosen to take vows, even though she desperately wanted to. So she made a vow of her own that would last a lifetime. She brought your child into the world without conversation, agreement, or compromise. You brought your blessed joy into this world, and your world began to further crumble. I had assumed that you two were continuing to become one, despite our conversations, deep thoughts, candor, and flirtations. You're a man in a whole relationship. I had denied the actual difficulties of your situation. Part of me knew it was bad, but I assumed that the passion, or at least the lust, was there. It seemed as if she had struck after months of a drought and you came together and your next miracle was made. Why was I reeling? Why did I need a mask to both catch my breath and feelings? I thought I knew what this was. Harmless flirtation, sage advice, passing compliments. Devastation does not even come close. And then it was gone, lost amongst the sheets as an errant sock. But this was hope, new beginnings, the rebuilding of a family that should have already been in the making. more questions than answers, and the freedom to breathe, to ask the pertinent ones. Like, do I want to be in this relationship with you? Questions that are hard to place on tongue, let alone expel from lips. Questions that have more questions than answers. Questions that could change the trajectory of a 2-year-old's life forever. And I felt sweet relief and revulsion at the thought that you would not be tied to her for more time, and I could pretend it was my superego thinking that relief was for you and your situation, that you really didn't want to be with her, but it is my id, and this is for me. I see your struggle, your ache, your unhappiness, your vacillation. I weep for you. I know what this is like at the most intimate of levels. So as I had prepared to question your last message, to know me is to love, I sat back, was a listening ear, a challenging voice, a quiet reflection of the thoughts you had yet hidden, to share your struggle with grief, the fear that it would take you out into the Atlantic and never return you to shore. Thank you. Now go struggle. Mourn not just this loss, but the realization that, well, decisions have to be made. And there are other things to grieve in addition to the loss of this child. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that piece. And I love having heard both your poetry and now prose as well. This is really, really lovely. Thank you. Next up to the mic, I'd like to invite Karita Wilson. Welcome back.
Hello. Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay, I'm gonna read a short story. It's called Bi-Curious Affection. It was a hot Saturday afternoon. Tia was home listening to soca music, waiting for her friend Penny to come by for a quick visit. Tia's dad and brother were outside washing the car, while Tia and her mom were inside. Soca music was introduced to Tia by Penny, as her family's Caribbean culture is strong in music and dance. They always had celebrations with lots of liquor, loud music, and nonstop dancing from the elders on down to the kids. And they partied all night long. Not to say soca music wasn't well liked in Tia's home, but it wasn't understood. Tia's parents didn't understand the lyrics, the rhythmic whine of the hip swaying to the beat. They didn't fully know the culture. Once Penny arrived, she and Tia hung out in the room, talking, laughing, listening to music, and watching music videos on MTV. Penny was always so chill and didn't give a damn what anybody thought of her. An independent girl and out-the-box thinker. She was often misunderstood, but never afraid to speak her mind or be herself. Tia loved that about Penny. Another thing learned from Penny and her family's culture is how lovable they are. Big hugs, huge smiles, and kisses to the cheek. Tia didn't really understand all the hugs at first, but embraced it until she later found out that Penny's father was involved in a car crash and barely survived. So since that heartbreaking day, Penny didn't hesitate to give hugs or share friendly I love yous when the two greeted or parted ways. Penny stayed for about an hour until it was time for her to head back home in time for dinner. The smell of fried chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, and corn on the cob circulated throughout the entire house as they stood outside the kitchen, watching Tia's mom clean up splattered chicken grease. Mom always loved Penny's manners and use of yes ma'am and no ma'am, but she didn't understand Penny's way of showing affection, or why. As Mom wrapped Penny's to-go plate in foil, they made small talk before Tia walked Penny to the door to go home. Tia and Penny exchanged hugs and friendly I love yous before Penny left, walking home. Not long after Penny left, Tia moms blurts out, "Why y'all have to hug?" Immediately, Tia's smile turned down. She was confused. Why wouldn't we? Tia thought. What's wrong with the hug? Under Tia's breath, without a single movement of her lips, she mumbled, "Because you don't hug me." Confused by what had been done, Confused by what had been done wrong, Tia's mom went back to cleaning up splattered chicken grease until she probed again. So you gay? The nerve. Unable to gather the words to respond, let alone talk back without getting slapped, Tia was slow to speak, but respectfully answered her mother, "No, I'm not gay or attracted to her. Yes, we hug because we're friends, and we say I love you because it could be our last time seeing each other." The conversation ended, was swept under the rug, and nothing else was ever mentioned. When Tia's mom failed to understand is, Tia was never attracted to Penny, let alone any other female in a sexual manner. Outside of them seeing each other at school, it was only a cool friendship based on similarities and respect. It's often been said your love language is related to what you were neglected from as a child. If true, it makes sense why one's love language of physical touch or words of affirmation holds a different level of significance than your partner's love language. Hugs, light touches, and being close may be frowned upon compared to one who may enjoy receiving gifts. No one is wrong. It's simply the way you've been taught or how you've been shaped to give and receive affection, and that's okay. Taking the time to learn a person's past will help you understand how they navigate in life and how they've been shaped to show affection. Like Penny, there may always be misconceptions due to a person's culture, race, sexual preference, or life choices. But the way to help combat those misconceptions is communication. The African proverb, "each one teach one," was phrased with the idea to spread knowledge to the next person for the betterment of our community. I'm sure we all can relate to how easy it is to label or judge a person without understanding their intentions or purpose in our lives. It's never too late, and we're never too old to grow, expand our knowledge, or become educated on things outside of what you consider normal. Just remember, however your affection is given, let it be from a place of empathy and love. Until next time, Karita.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Thank you for that
Thank you.
ever important reminder and reflection. I think it's all important for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up to the mic, I'd like to invite T. Watts. Welcome, T.
You're on mute, T.
Yeah, moving kind of slow. How's everybody? Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
So good to be here again among all the creative people. I'm gonna read two poems tonight, one old and one new. I'm gonna start with the old one. It's called No Jokes. No jokes this time. A laugh cannot be found. The tricksters holidayed unceremoniously. April becomes solemn. Easter beckons. People retreat, loving the silence. Holidays are seen lightly as they are. No time to promenade down city streets slicked in the name of Christ. Parties are somber affairs, existence the issue. We sat around intellectualizing, excusing ourselves from the funk. We fart so loudly. In days past, laughter reigned when necessary replaced tears. Motown, the center of the universe, abandoned its spatial space program, or was the whole thing imagined? No jokes, people. Even our laughter is controlled. Remember laughing to keep from crying? Them days is gone. This comedy should be finished. Our laughter undubbed. I wrote that a long time ago when I was a young man. This next poem is brand new, actually, and I would like to pose a quick cultural question. How many people out there are familiar with Bob Kaufman? Okay, that's good. That's good. Title of this piece is called Bob Kaufman's Autograph. Way past around midnight, I'm up rooting in this lexicon called life. while the best kept secret that begat our ancestors' trip guides my lip that drips from my fingers here. Give this motherfucker some cadence, will ya? Grant him legatos that linger longer, because like Hendrix wrote, the story of life is quicker than the wink of an eye. The story of love is hello and goodbye until we meet again. I met Bob Kaufman at Berkeley's Rainbow Sign. We were setting a record for continuous rhyme and poetic reason. He was the king of the beats, had trod those mean North Beach streets, the scourge of bad Broadway beat cops who happened to be Italian. At the Rainbow, it was like in walked Bob, or rather, he was led in on a leash by his handler, spouse. At first, a sad sight to see. The lights going out. In the retrospective view, though, the leash tethered him to the earth he was trying to flee. What happened then, you have to believe, was theater of the spirit. The mic was handed him and it turned golden. Before our eyes, the poet morphed from toothless urchin of the street to gifted oratorical shaman, hurling hyper-eloquent utterances that informed logic and truth. He stunned us with his bop gun, whose bullets lifted us to where he was going. He signed my homemade chapbook afterward, continuing on his rarely noticed solitary genius path. Even the infamous Berkeley Barb ignored his contribution when describing the Rainbow Sign Poetry Marathon of July 1975, choosing instead to mention Ferlinghetti, Joyce Carol Thomas, and others. Yeah, Robert Darnell Kaufman forged ahead 11 more years despite enduring 39 San Francisco arrests, electroshock therapy at Bellevue, and a 10-year vow of silence at the peak of his creative powers, dying of emphysema and cirrhosis in 1986 at age 60. Yeah, he signed my homemade chapbook afterwards. It was my prized possession until I lost it. Or should I say I gave it back to the universe. So I will end this with a quote from the boat of the poet Bob Kaufman himself. In this dark plastic jungle, land of long night, chilled, my navel is a button to push when I want inside out. Am I not more than a mass of entrails and rough tissue? Must I break my bones, drink my wine diluted blood? Should I dredge old sadness from my chest? Not again. All those ancient balls of fire hotly swallowed, let them lie. Let me spit breath mists of introspection, bits of me, so that when I'm gone, I shall be in the air. And then I added, don't grieve me, Babylon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, T. And thank you to that for that tribute as well. That was lovely. It's exciting to hear new work. Next up to the mic, I would like to invite Yusuf Salam. Welcome back, Yusuf.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I hear you, yes.
Good. Okay, I've been reading, I want to read a piece called Applejack Hat, The Applejack Hat, which is for a poet named, New York Harlem poet named Ladine Khalid. He always wears Applejack hat when he's reading. A mellifluous moon moors over the poet's patio. Bad bards blow the blues, jam in their ancient tongue about why the beetle rose the dung. The Applejack hat zoot suit sidewinder struts, Big bebop bass line strides solos. Lion snarls and lamb smiles. Cool fire spit of styles. Heart cuddle songs wails the weary and wonder story. Mason House bed-style welfare cheese lines. Jolly Stompers slum crimes. Lover man tongue kisses our hearts. Whirlwind rider who spit words that water deserts. Swims oceans like shine. Tells the story on the grapevine. The Applejack hat swings pork pie ballots. Union jobs and weddings and diplomas. Eyes sealed, see and scat the insights. Villagers drink each drop of foresights. So that's the Applejack hat. You got time for me to read one more?
Yep, go for it.
This is a poem based on rivers that I've mused over the decades. It begins like this. I've sailed rivers, floated waters that resemble wavy scaly-backed dragons, swam uphill with salmon leaping to die and live, soaked in streams showered from mountains. I've caught crawfish and eels with bare hands, mimicked the croaks of bullfrogs, trapped tadpoles in mason jars, seen snakes slide across clay banks. I've tossed rocks that hopscotched across like a cheerful child, dived off bridges, dared death as I crushed into tons of debt that drowned restless, sweaty summer Carolina boys. I've mused rivers that soared like magnificent swans, wings paddled until night veiled its face from a curious moon. Ducks yak yak to the river, dipped into the mouth of an awakening, yawning sun. I've marveled rivers that crawl like a flock under the yawnings of moss. Knock-knocks of woodpeckers please the silence. River and a moored rowboat rumble to splashes that rinse the shore. I'm haunted by rivers, with docks stocked with caged Ghana cargo, souls, cattle, and grains auction, shrieks of lightning and howling winds that incited river terror. I've heard the typed infinite epics of Moors on the pages of muddy banks, perceived the one who inspired the Cushite to raise his staff and command the blue and white torrents to stand tranquil and lofty as Khufu, the one who guided the mother to secrete her infant amidst the wombs of papyrus reeds. I am a river, journeyed floods that swamped my heart and left me lonely and adrift. Voyage pain deeper than bottomless murky waters where snails feed. Rafted across heartbreaks and weighted peaks till I kissed beloved splendor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. I always enjoy the cadence and the rhythm of your poetry. So it's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up to the mic, I would like to invite Kay Eltine. Welcome, calling in from across the Atlantic.
Wow.
Are you here with us this evening? I thought I saw your name in the list. I'm going to move on to Carla Brundage and welcome Carla up. But Kay, we're going to make sure you get back in the lineup.
Thank you, Nia. I'm so excited to be here tonight as part of the crew from the Maafa, and so happy to have worked with Wanda Sabir over all these years, celebrating or commemorating our ancestors. I'm going to read a poem that is about the Black arts movement. I was going to read it at this year's Maafa. Some of the people in this poem are ancestors and some are not. It's called Black Arts Movement. To be young, gifted, and Black in 1957 marks the first point of the Black arts movement on the American timeline. Meant using the back door, Brown versus Board of Education, no voting rights, Black Panthers, Kujichagulia, self-determination, Umoja, unity, Ujamaa, cooperative economics, the 10-point plan, free school lunches, taking back our streets from the police, arming ourselves. Black arts is self-love and self-liberation, creating our own literature, calls of action, founding of Umbra Poets Workshop, which becomes a magazine by Ishmael Reed, David Henderson, Calvin and Nora Hicks, and other true New Yorkers who moved west. Black arts is Barbara Christian chairing African American studies at UC Berkeley, Leroy Jones graduating from a beat poet to the School of Pan-Africanism and Black nationalism, emerging as Amiri Baraka, poet, instigator, novelist, playwright, cultural critic, trickster, Bob Kaufman. The story, the country is in turmoil. Do you integrate? Do we self-separate? Some Black art movements members repatriate to Ghana. Who knew why the caged bird sang? Maya Angelou, founder of Association for Women of African Heritage, member of Harlem Writers Guild. There were other actors, John O'Neill, Tom Dent, founders of and co-collaborators of Umbra, of the Free Southern Theater members of SNCC, who would influence the San Francisco Mime Troupe and be featured in New Black Voices. Black arts is Mary Lovelace O'Neill, abstract artist and professor at UC Berkeley, but also in New Orleans with John O'Neill and Tom Dent, working, writing, witnessing with SNCC and CORE and Free Southern Theater. Adrienne Kennedy explored the Black psyche of the Black woman in Funny House of a Negro. Black arts is poet, intellectual Eugene Redmond claiming the most influential schools in Black arts movement were not in New York, but Merritt College, San Francisco State, UC Berkeley, UCLA, and HBCUs. Mention poet laureates Devorah Major and Al Young. Avacha Jalantro, Bay Area DJ and musician, poet, producer, and celebrity, stars in Entezaki Shange's For Color Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. QR Hand, poem in one, pen in the other, bops his jazz rhythms at the elbow room, pitches words right far to the left ear. James Baldwin said, societies never know it, but the war of an artist with society is a lover's war. The artist does at best what lovers do, which is to reveal the beloved to themselves. And with that, the revelation, make freedom real. Black is afros like golden halos, uplifted fists. Black is power, is beautiful, is Black arts, is a way to reclaim power, celebrate beauty, discover a voice. I wanted to say before I read the poem that this was actually inspired by a slideshow made by my friend Kathy Sloan. So I know I didn't mention many names, but these were the ones in the slideshow. And actually this poem came about when I was attending Mills College in a class, and a student said that she didn't know what the Black arts movement was. So this poem was actually a strong reaction to a class comment. And so I know I could go on and on with so many other names, but I think it's really important as people are leaving this planet, some people like Nora Hicks, my godmother who recently passed, I wanted to just read this poem in their memory today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Carla, for that tribute and for saying the names of our living and past ancestors. I think it was absolutely beautiful and important to remember all of those who've shaped the work that we do, who continue to bring them here into this space was wonderful. So thank you. I feel like that was a good, that set a good tone, because I was trying to decide what pieces to read myself. And I think, you know, writing to the ancestors is always important. And so I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do a 2-part piece, which I have read in this space, but usually I only read the second part. So this first part is entitled Ritual. Come to a body of water, your closest stream, the puddle beside your curb strip, the ocean. Yes, come to the ocean. The more waves, the better. Bring us pumpkin and honey and cast them into the waves. Wade out into the water and apply sea foam to your skin. Return to the land and scoop handfuls of earth until your nails are black. Leave the earth where you found it and cast your palms upward into the moonlight. Repeat this until you are a wet body wearing sea foam, fresh earth beneath fingernails, with nightfall upon your calloused palms. Repeat this. Repeat this until they find you, bleeding stories. So the second part is entitled In the Day Diamonds Are. The only time the ocean cut me, I bled stories. They said, what a beautiful yet terrifying thing it is to be free. They said, we have traveled years to bring you our names. We knew you'd forget them, or worse, never recognize them in the first place. They said, rememory me. Unfold your tongue. Gather in your hand all the cities your foremothers birthed freedom in. Scatter milkweed seeds in the wind and call us home. So waterlogged and weary, I bandage my wounds with diamonds and rise from seafoam memory, homebound. I've never been far from the page. How else to learn what moonlight looks like through blue-eyed promises? Oh, but to be Sonia, to be Tony, to be wind in a cotton field scattering marigolds. I wish I knew Arkansas clouds, like I do the lines on a palm, like I do the recipe for forgiveness. Joy is memory in the refrain, magic too hopeful to stay hidden. See, the trick to befriending stories is listening, after all. Yet sometimes belonging cannot be traced by tide lines or railroads carved out of the night sky, but rather dog-eared pages and overdue book finds. Having a library to owe things to makes one at home, right? So we write, we sing, we rename our story legacy before they claim we were never here in the first place. Find us on the page. As she said, this is the first battlefield we play on. Hear our words dance, and so we too leap into blissful surrender. And one day we will fly. And one day we will fly. Thank you. it feels good to read both pieces, both parts of the piece together. I feel like it does justice to the whole story. And so I haven't been doing that recently. So this is a good reminder for myself to tell the full story. So it is now that time in the evening where I'm so honored to introduce our featured poet. This evening, we have Wanda Sabir joining us. Wanda is a journalist and author, moonlighting as a college professor in Alameda, California. For 30 years, one of her many literary events has been hosted the first Saturday every February at the West Oakland Library, a celebration of African-American writers and their poetry. She is also a depth psychologist with deep roots in the bayous of Louisiana, where she was born. Her interests and expertise are historic trauma and trauma healing, the Maafa, specifically ancestral memories, dream tending, women prisoners, and the use of art to stimulate those forgotten conversations, especially among diaspora descendants. She is the co-founder of Maafa San Francisco Bay Area in its 25th season, October 2020. She's also the co-founder of the International Coalition for the Commemoration of African Ancestors of the Middle Passage, and a recent recipient of this distinguished 400 award, 400 Years of African American History Commission, 2019. She is a transformative justice or community accountability facilitator and believes the true revolution starts at home. So welcome, Wanda.
Oh, thank you, Nia. I put on my earphones. Uh-oh. Gosh, maybe I shouldn't do it this way. Okay, let me try it another way.
All right, so I'm going to do it this way. It was just my visibility was low, according to.
I think there's a little bit of an echo.
Okay. Just a second. Is it okay now?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. I wanted to dedicate this reading to my father, whose birthday is today. He would have been 87, and he passed when he was 59. And so when I was 59 and he was 59, well, he passed when he was 59. That was a few years ago. I wrote a book in his honor, and I also was really privileged to participate in a digital storytelling workshop at the West Oakland Library. That's like my stomping ground. And there we were able to tell stories of migration. And so I'm a migrant from New Orleans, Louisiana. And so I tell the story of my father through the movement. And so I thought that'd be great to share with you. And for those who don't know what the Maafa commemoration is, it is a Kiswahili term that means great calamity or reoccurring disaster. And it references the Black Holocaust. The thing is that Maafa designates a reoccurring of this trauma, a reoccurring of this type of genocide. So when we see things happening like things are happening presently in our country and also elsewhere in the world with Black people, Black bodies are being killed. I mean, even today we're calling the names of people that were killed by police through the Stolen Legacy Project. That is the Maafa. So in order to arrest this, we have to acknowledge it, and then we can change it. And we're also looking at healing from the trauma. And I think the best healing tool is culture. So, so Nia, would you like to share that video of my dad?
I am a transplant from a country called New Orleans. We arrived in San Francisco on a Greyhound bus, mother disheveled, brother crying, dad looking proud yet scared. Reunited for the first time in months, I couldn't recall this big man who hugged me like I was an anchor in a sea, too shallow to hold us all. It would be a rocky journey, our vessel full of holes only liquid paraffin could plug. We stayed aboard the plywood flotilla until it capsized. That day, we stood up, grabbed our belongings, and decided to try living on land. Earthquakes followed us from Oak to Page, from Page to Brookdale, from Brookdale to Tioga, from Tioga to Grenada, from Grenada to Holloway, and from Holloway to Mariposa, from Mariposa to Skid Row. The fissures were deep, and each time the holes were a bit harder to climb out. There were no hands reaching into the chasm to grab our waving ones, nor any bodies lining the borders preventing our falls. We just adapted and got good at walking in our sleep, scraped knees and hurt elbows, twisted ankles and dislocated tenure in a dream we'd applied for, yet were denied. A norm we grew to accept. If we were to make it, it would be on our own. I spent my time writing poetry, memorizing chapters from Message to the Black Man, and thinking about the fall of America, which couldn't happen too soon if that would make my family safe. With my words, I fashioned a place where Black men like my daddy could find vessels large enough to hold them and their families, spaces where they were able to stretch and grow and be free. The shackles that rattled, the ball that he tripped over, and the dimly lit room he was assigned kept him trapped, even though the doctors kept telling him it's all in your mind, as the job applications and rental agreements were shredded sheets we used to cover our shame each night. His Blackness was a liability. Yet it was not just his Blackness, it was his undeniable Blackness, coupled with an unshaken pride. Daddy never gave up, even when he could no longer see. Miss Justice's scales, a bleak outline on the horizon, too distant to matter. It was an uneasy life for a Black girl.
So this next piece is autobiographical, and it's called Buried Placenta. And I wrote it when I was a part of Carla Brundage's Wotawa from West Oakland to West Africa poetry exchange workshops. You probably heard this story before, so I won't go into all the detail. But anyway, hopefully you'll get the references. I come from a place without form. Tossed on waves too high to reach, I decide to drown in baptismal waters on altars lit by ancestors. She follows me cross country, cross town, cross oceans to settle in a place where discomfort is normed, deprivation expected, civility absent, wonder its saving grace, this place where we do not belong, yet stay. I come from a place where drums carve tunnels into freedom, machetes ready to chop limbs and hands too close to chains dismembered, refashioned into jewelry we parlay for favors and fortune. I come from a place where floors have seams, snakes slither through into toilets where they wait for willing butts to pierce. I come from a place too close to plantation pain that Grandmama Josephine strings her daughter from a rafter and beats her with leather straps. It is a post-traumatic slavery relic, a nightmare she relives. Her girl an imposter, she beats until she awakens. No, until her brother shakes her and she stutters into the present, ashamed. I come from a place where rockets were tested after the Russians made it to the moon first. Pennies were my mother's inheritance as NASA took her family's land and they relocated to New Orleans where brick and mortar awaited them, a checkered casket with their names on it. I come from a place where kinfolk know each other and bloodlines traverse uncommon lines, and those familiar too. We are one people. I come from a place where no one is immunized, historic contagions people the Mississippi swamps, red clay, white chalk. I come from a place where illegitimate becomes legitimate on palates and tongues too sweet for anything else. I come from a place where indigo blues swing low like chariots carrying me home. Home, charity hospital ward, where I was yanked from between thighs, shaking with fear, forceps creasing my skull. I come from histories too bleak to remember, too majestic to forget, too wondrous to contain in a single life. I come from a people too big for small minds, yet they try to contain us and are shocked into alternative realities, shot into orbit, still spinning and spinning. Dizziness indicative of this state of utter intoxication and disequilibrium. I come from Angola, Congo, Dahomey, Yorubaland, places where spirit lives in everything, the earth, Oludomare's temple. I come from a place where everything is always everything, and time is nothing. Reality, the laughter of a child. So now we are going to go to a Maafa commemoration, care of Alan Kimara Dixon's lovely photographs that he pulled together. So this is about 20 years of Maafa commemorations. And this particular book features James Gale's beautiful watercolors, and a lot of, some of the poets probably here contributed to this particular book. And I wrote an essay, The Maafa Story for Oshamare. So while you watch the slideshow, I'm going to read the essay. A Black soul stands at the edge of eternity. On a precipice, she waits, still wind parting as stranded ideas sit on strange, unfamiliar shores, remembering the sensations of that last moment before the story changed. Abstract symbols decorate the pages between one soul and the next. The confusion is in the distance, the space, pebbles leaping over sandy surfaces, face lifted to catch the sun on overcast days, the inarticulate moment that means everything. The blink and it is gone, nothing at all indelibly captured forever. Born into a body she doesn't recognize, the teenager decides to be grateful and accept the carcass. This earns her a smile and unexpected movie passes. She watches for herself on the screen and catches glimpses of the familiar during commercial breaks. No one gets off free and clear. Haunted by a past she can't remember, an ache she can't quite touch, a role she missed the call back on, she weeps into open spaces. There is nowhere one can go on this planet where the Black Holocaust or Maafa tragedy has not impacted lives, especially those Pan-African descendants of enslaved Africans. The capture and commodification of Africans is something which Black people have not gotten over. How could they when the psychological and emotional, not to mention the spiritual and economic effects, have yet to be addressed globally? An untreated catastrophe doesn't heal itself. An unaddressed wrong doesn't disappear. Like cancer, it eats away at any positive cell until the whole immune system is compromised. These predators who continue to wreak havoc on the minds and souls of the affected parties have to be arrested and stopped. There is no cure for cancer, but there is a healing protocol for post-traumatic stress slavery syndrome. The Maafa commemoration or ritual allows African people to feel the loss and mourn relatives then and now whose lives were lost, yet no tears were shed. Our walking dead, the Egungun, the ancestors, the ghosts whose wanderings need to cease, those whose burial plots remain unclaimed, funeral arrangements left unprepared, processions stalled, libations in limbo, those who did not have a good death. These we honor and commemorate on the edges of the now and forever after. These precipices we straddle with faith. One of the interventions is to recognize the lost and the wronged souls as a way to reconnect to severed roots, people and families, diaspora citizenry, lost contact with spirituality when our relationships were savagely severed hundreds of years ago. The Maafa ritual is a way to recognize this pain and call on the ancestors to help us heal by recognizing their ordeal during the transatlantic trade to this hemisphere, the West and its global outposts in Europe, South Asia, Arabia, North and South America, and what lies between, the Caribbean diaspora. Pinned like animals in ship hulls, buried at sea in a triangular transport, so heinous that the collective consciousness of the earth never forgot her Black people, whose bones lie in the deep, deep seas. Olokun guards. The Maafa ritual is a way to tell the Egun we pray for them, we remember them, and we are grateful for their strength, endurance, and hope that one day we will be free and suffering will be no more. Ashe. You can stop it, Nia. Thank you. Yeah, that again, that's the work of Alan Kimara Dixon. And some of those photographs from early on are part of the Museum of the African Diaspora archive. We don't know exactly where they are, but they're here. So next poem I'm going to share is called, I'm trying to think, how's my time, Nia?
You're doing fine. You still have time.
Okay, all right. So this next poem is called Mythology Attached to Blackness. The references to burial sites is lost, perhaps on those with shovels. But for those persons whose ancestors wanted dead, not alive, once stock options expired, could not miss the 6 feet apart references. 6 feet under, 6 feet. I walk among the dead. I am a ghost with possibility extinguished at birth. 6 feet under, I see kin swimming nowhere, anchors attached to nooses, attached to pre-existing conditions like covenants and expired insurance policies. There's a mythology attached to Blackness like, we don't swim, we just drown. Perhaps the tears we tend to wallow in create sinkholes. Jaws open, swallowed, we swim inside a belly. Dark, we search for light and find more darkness. The mythology attached to a narrative of supremacy, one where Black people are not people. You know, we die, but not with dignity, afforded even beasts, domesticated pets. This mythology attached to Blackness leaves my people alone, isolated, looked upon with contempt, systems supported by cheap labor, spin on wheels oiled by dispensable humanity. Black mythology. People step off curbs, yell expletives. It would be funny, except for Baba Emmett, it was too late. The joke, white people have no humor. 6 feet under, Emmett's body chained to narratives that say, Black boys don't get to grow up. Black people as surplus. Emmett linked to a genetic circuit passed through inheritance, auction blocks and stocks marketed differently now with the same result. COVID-19, Corona, crown, beheaded. Black people stumble into graves, beheaded. Black people stumble into graves. 6 feet under, 6 feet below sea level. We reach for sky and find more dirt, gravel, broken ladders and distilled promises. Even with pink supermoon, its largesse was only an illusion. The moon is still 238,855 miles from the earth, and even further from the sun, 93 million miles away. Even though it looks close, like broken legislative amendments to an anemic constitution, Justice sitting with her sister Liberty, both marooned on an island off the coast of a big apple. Apples laced with poisonous promises, Black mythology. It's a question of resilience, if only, but we don't. Black people don't bounce, we jump. Remember? We run. Remember? Chased. We cannot slow down except through death. Running is what people do who are alive. Walking is for the dead. Balls bounce like boomerangs, Sankofa symbols in pyramids. We do return. Blackness indivisible, permanent like dark matter that births life. But this is a philosophical wonder that has limited practicality as one is running from police or stopped at a red light or unmasked in the face of COVID-19. Topsoil, pressure cookers, steam kettles tip over historic landmarks 6 feet under. Applied racism like applied math is practical. Resilience looks like hypertension, prostate cancer, liver disease, sugar diabetes, kidney stones, tumors, glaucoma, gout, renal failure, asthma, persistent trauma. Inside greedy monster's belly, we take small breaths, disappear or at least try to with passwords etched in DNA. Swallow stinging nettle to stop itching, racism covers epidermis, solitary confinement, shelter in place anxiety. We are magic, I think. I think I remember a poem about magic. Oh yes, Joy Holland spoke about magic and voodoo and blackness in one sentence. I count steps, just as I time hand washing rituals. Out, Spot, the queen said. However, when she looked at her hands, her hands were still covered in blood. This nation is covered in blood. Cleanliness is a myth too, like blackness. So Nia, now we're gonna show that wonderful piece offering that William Rhodes created. And this poem is, actually I have like 3 poems that are inspired by the same piece. So this one is entitled Night Rain. 1. We are the girls who get up when pushed down, shake off the pain and keep walking, ignoring the blood dripping from ripped shirt, taking off the offensive item, our shame in the dirt where we drop it, in the dust, the clouds, a place to hide until we can remember what we placed in our hearts. 2. We are the girls who grit our teeth to keep our tongues from jumping out of our mouths. We are so full of ourselves, we have to open channels so that we don't explode. We levitate, fly and try to remember boundaries, human boundaries, limitations and rules adults press like gravity when we're into grace and gratitude and escape. We are the girls who don't have addresses, girls you can't find, girls you better appreciate now because you blink and it might be forever. We are that impossible to grasp, hold, destroy. 4. Destruction, that is the problem. We are the girls who abhor reformation. We like flying instead of walking, leaping and singing instead of sleeping. We lay me down to sleep when we die and not a second before. We too busy thinking and plotting and planning our future to doze off. 5. We the girls who get sent to the office to learn. We the girls who get sent to the office, learn to smoke cigars with the principal and blow smoke and laughter in teachers' faces. We are the smart girls. We are the girls who figure it out long before the answer is discovered. We only ask for a small royalty cut. We are the girls who know her worth and make a world pay and pay and pay. We're not taking any checks, no. Gold, silver, and pearls. We like the trade. 6. We are the mean girls. We are the girls that will cut your throat before you think about cutting ours. It's easier that way because we are the kind of girls you either love or hate. The binary is hella clear. We step over the dead, bearing our secrets with the slain. We travel light and don't allow hitchhikers. We are not into charity, and well, if we have enough to share, we probably won't. Yeah, we that girl. 7. We hard because we learned drinking the formula. Even family is unreliable. Family can hurt you worse than an enemy. Something about the blood, the way family organs are stitched together along a seam, Carry a seam ripper and amputate it before it atrophies. A prosthesis is better than gangrene. Cut your losses, talk mean, cause the world ain't feeling no pussycat. Wear your armor, cause the armor gets respect, and respect spends a lot further than kindness. Fear is an even better deal, but fear is hard to sustain. Ammunition is expensive, and then you need a firing range and ducks. 8. We are the girls who give birth to themselves, who never had a mama, who don't miss what they never had. 9. Mean girls make it rain, so carry an umbrella. 10. We are the girls who live in cars, who walk the streets, who ride BART all night, whose looks will rip your heart out. We are the girls wishing for a bit of peace, but all we find is trouble. We are the girls who call home and hang up before there is an answer. We are the girls who erase memories and feel so alone. We are the girls who can't forget and can't forgive. We are the mean girls, tough and strong and invincible. Between layers, insecurely latched, we admit, mean girl is a persona that can't last. Thank you. So Nia, I think I want to stop there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Wanda. I feel like that was a wonderful note to end on.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
And so I always ask this in my features, if you have other events or ways that people can support you, please do let us know, whether it's a book or future Maafa events or other ways. Please either share now or also put links in the chat for all of us. We'd love to hear that.
Yes, I did put the link to the Maafa SF Bay Area website, and I'll drop it in again because it was earlier on. But we actually have events through December. I'm working right now on creating a virtual gallery. So if you check the website, then Lorraine Bonner has contributed a sculpted piece to the exhibit, and Lorraine is actually going to be one of the panelists in the conversation we're going to be having with two other people whose names are escaping me right now. Carla, you want to help me? Fania Davis and
wait.
That's the December one.
No, I can help you in a minute. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, Amara Tabor Smith, sorry. Yeah, we're gonna have a panel, and the Oakland Public Library, I saw Shauna in the meeting earlier today. She is the director of the African American Center, and so we're collaborating and hosting 2 conversations and readings on November 7th, which is the first Saturday in November, and December 5th, which is the first Saturday in December, 11 to 1, both dates, Pacific time, and it's a free Zoom event. And so on November 7th, we're going to be I'm going to be having a conversation with Her Majesty Queen Mother Dewoti Tazir, who has a really wonderful collection of photographs and essays looking at memorial sites for people of the African diaspora, which is really beautiful. So that's happening. And then this Sunday, we're having we have a Maafa Town Hall every 4th Sunday of the month for people of African descent, and it's free. And this Sunday from 2 to 4, it's always 2 to 4, we're going to be having Sister Risika Razak. She is going to be doing a workshop around ancestor meditation. So that's going to be really awesome. And all of this is on the website in the calendar on the maafasfbayarea.com website. So thank you so much for letting me share that.
Thank you so much, Wanda. And everyone, please check out those links that are in the chat. It was absolutely lovely hearing your poetry, your words, the images, the accompaniment of the images with your words was really, really wonderful. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we'll be continuing our evening with the rest of our open mic readers. So I'm excited to introduce Makita Hooper Mayfield up to the mic. Welcome.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. The poetry is, I could just be here all night. Poetry is everything to me. My confession, my penance, just like everything. And I like to be here in the right now with it. And so I wrote a poem today for this event, but I felt led to my heart was somewhere else. And it is a poem that I wrote back in 2014. And it's what led me or drove me to this place. This poem is what's going on in terms of Floyd's killer. I can't do all, can only do one thing at a time. Okay. Okay, this is called Screaming for Eric Gardner. And when I watched the film of his death, what was killing me inside is that nobody did anything. And I was wondering what he was saying to himself about that people filmed but nobody screamed, and all they did is watch, just like they did with George. Or I'm gonna say we. I'm in a chokehold. My hands are cuffed, a knee's in my back, but that's not enough. I gotta die so you can be tough. Somebody scream for me. Somebody, please. They're holding me down and I can't breathe. No life, die. You ain't nothing, just black. Somebody scream for me. Somebody, please. They're holding me down and I can't breathe. They're stalking my children, my wife, my life, still lynching and hating, saying, hang him high from a tree. I know you fear me. You think I don't know that you long to be me. The truth is you're the slave who don't want to be free. Somebody scream for me. Somebody, please. They're holding me down and I can't breathe. Mama, mama, seems whatever I do, I'm making you cry. Mama, I'm crying too. I'm crying from trying every day not to die. Single cigarettes for sale, my dignity too. For this, I'm dying. So tired of crying and living the lie that black men ain't trying. They just want to die, to be dying. Somebody scream for me. Somebody, please, they're holding me down and I can't breathe. 2020. My name is George. Nothing has changed. Same black, same attack, same white, same blight, same fight. Same still in my breath, same choke to death. A updated lynching without a noose. They are all in cahoots. I called on my mama too. Every mama in the world, in and out of the world, heard my cry. Set me free. Just let me die. I could feel my mama right there in my heart saying, let go, son, suffer no more. Your new life is just past the door. She gave her head a bow and whispered a black mama's prayer. The street lights are on, George. You get home right now. That's my poem.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. It's ever relevant, but also recognizes our ongoing fight. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Next up to the mic, I would like to invite Zakia G.E.K. Park. Welcome, Zakia.
Mute your microphone here.
There we go. We can hear you now.
You can hear me? Okay, great. Sorry, I was having a challenge there. Yeah, so good evening. Thank you, Nia, for holding the space for us. And all the poetry has been just fabulous. I'm in the mode of ancestors, of celebrating our ancestors for beautiful poetry that I've heard tonight. Thank you, Wanda, for all that you do and share. Really appreciate it. I need it because I'm going to read from it. So my first poem is dedicated to my paternal grandmother, and the second poem would be dedicated to my paternal grandfather, who are both ancestors. So the prompt for this first poem was, how does one say no in thunder? So the title of my poem is Roar of the Tigress. Gal, get away from that window and sit down over yonder. Don't you hear God talking? Grandmother would turn off the lights and make us be still. We all sat in the dark when the thunder came. She said God was talking and we better be listening. I usually obeyed grandmother, or the sting of her tree switch would be imprinted on my behind. But I believed God was talking, and I wanted to hear what she was saying. Brisk, bellowing, crackling sound permeated the atmosphere like the roar of the tigress. Yeah, get away from that window and sit down over yonder. Don't you hear God talking? My grandmother's words still echo in my memory. So when the thunder comes, I turn off the lights and sit in the dark and be still. Because I know God's talking and I better be listening. I still obey grandmother, or the sting of her tree switch will be imprinted on my behind. And I believe God is talking because I hear what she is saying. Brisk, bellowing, crackling sound still permeate the atmosphere is the roar of the tigress. Gal, get away from that window and sit down over yonder. Don't you hear God talking? So my next poem is for my grandfather. It's entitled Papa. You were tall and bald when we met. I remember you cursing and swearing. I was merely a babe in arms, but I knew you was my papa. Lean and mean, hopping quick and steady. Brilliant in your thoughts and constant in your habits. Perpetuating wisdom in my eyes and others. Possessing knowledge and understanding that encircled our heads. Educated by life experiences and mother wit. You were a self-taught man. Oh, how I miss you, Papa. I cry when I think of how much I really do miss you. I recall how my sisters and I used to gather around you for storytelling time, and how intensely I listened. While sitting on the front porch swing in the summertime, or nestled during the winter around the radiant fireplace, when all was serene and innocent. Your stories were always real to me, like the daily problems we encountered in the rural South, and your resourcefulness in resolving those issues. Papa, I miss your wisdom. I miss your intellect. I miss your humor. And oh, how I miss your storytelling time. But most of all, I miss you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zakia. for both of those tributes. Those were both very lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, I would like to invite Shauna Sherman. Welcome, Shauna.
Hi everyone. So happy to be a part of this Maafa commemoration. Great, I love your work, Wanda. Thank you. I have 2 poems to read today, both called Encounter 1 and 2. First, Encounter 1. An instant, insolent error message flashed across the computer screen. I got up to stretch, she behind me in a yellow velvet chair beside the money tree, stitching crosshatch on lace. I saw her before in the same chair in the city square, her body covered by a blanket, her eyes each named, one lifesaver, the other bricklayer, both with a swirling of space, of place, as if a world lurked behind. These images were 3. Another time she appeared at night. She took care with the lace, sat upright, concealing extraordinary wisdom. I said, I thought you were dead. She said, I died free and have wishes to give. I asked for a spot, a glass of milk, a currency to help make myself whole. Go, my child, go, she said. The customary routes are open to you. Think of life as your reward. You are the carpenter. You are the sly costume maker. She held up below her eyes cross-barred lace. She said, look at me, see me, a parrot chirping on a dowel in a cage, the door open. I'll fly out when I've eaten seed in a great quantity. I'll hop into the shade of palm tree and dissolve into air. Remember her flown, remember her debt paid, country recognize her contribution. She is in a yellow chair, sewing, sewing, sewing in an ordinary house, in a silk blouse, in a shirt that cost $10. Back at the desk, the blinking error message cleared, the results I requested filtered in alphabetical order. On the side of the desk, on a white stone plate, peaches in an orange sugar sauce, congealed. Thank you. And the next one's called Encounter 2, after Federico Garcia Lorca by way of Bob Kaufman. The leaves are a-falling, green and brown. Come sit with me. A moment is pulsing in the English garden. Cuckoo. I run wide, ride wind. I dwell among moss and fern, a rambler in the wood. At first light, we will gather sticks. We will gather twigs and twine. Cuckoo. I will use a twig to compare the line between star and star. Of the night, light, of satellites, of airplanes, of the Great Bear. Cuckoo. Bars across my window stencil the moon. At 5, I dreamed of the voyaging monarch. A girl needs to be careful during migrating season. Cuckoo. Early last Saturday morning, in a city full of offenders, I threw bread. Pigeons gathered around me. Likewise, spiders gather, ants gather, whirls of insects circle, swirl, gray the air, brown as they bump into each other. Cuckoo. One had a horse, another a saxophone. I chose to enter in a percussive gourd. Gourds grow there by the dozen. The distance is short, your future prospects full. How about the shipyard? Did you try your luck there? Cuckoo. In New Orleans, South Carolina, New York, in San Francisco. What did you find safer, the city or the country? Cuckoo. Each holds promise because I hold tight to hope. When I laugh, my cheeks dimple. Cuckoo. When you laugh, I hear the echo. A petal fell from the jade tree. I lost my place when the wind fanned pages of the book. Cuckoo. The orange light of dawn illuminates the jade. Its leaves grow across borders. Look, a crow flies above me, a beetle in its beak. It portends a good fortune for your return. Cuckoo. They shall slaughter the biggest hog upon my arrival, and crows will gather singing. Green, brown, green, brown, green, brown, the leaves are a-falling. Thank you. And so glad to see other people here in the Zoom. Lorraine Bonner, she'll be at the San Francisco Public Library on December, what is it, 5th, for What the Black Woman Body Knows. And I put in the link in the chat already, links for the Maafa program at the San Francisco Public Library on November 7th with Her Majesty Queen Mother Dowodi Desir, talking about redlining and the Holocaust. Thank you, Wanda, for supporting as always. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shauna, for both of those pieces. And just, I feel like as this always happens, there's overlap. We're all doing tributes to Bob Kaufman. I think that's really lovely. And thank you again for shouting out those upcoming events too. And Lorraine will be reading in just a few people as well. But up next, we have Raymond Nat Turner. Welcome up to the mic, Raymond.
Hello to everyone and good evening. And am I audible? Okay. First, I want to share some joy with you. I just recently received these two publications that I'm in. One is Left Turn, Spring and Summer, Quarterly Journal of Critical Voices. I have a piece in there. And the second is the Revolutionary Poets Brigade, Building Socialism. I also have a piece in there, which I was able to read today. It's been a busy poetry day for me because I'm also a regular on radio KPFA's Talkies on Thursdays, and I'm a poet in residence with Black Agenda Report on Wednesday. So in any case, I'm going to read the piece that I had in this Revolutionary Poets Brigade. It's called Ruling Class Remedies. And I guess it's apropos for tonight, isn't it? If you're feeling exceptionally feverish or feverishly exceptional, pull a tight-fitting cherry red maggot cap over your forehead and eyes, tight on your temples and clean cold compress. White phosphorus poultices work wonders if your temperature's hotter than a Hellfire missile, $110,000 each. Self-quarantine and waterboard yourself several times an hour. Campaigns and selections and stress positions work too. You can use enhanced interrogation techniques until you're dry coughing and screaming, "It's a Chinese hoax! It's a Chinese hoax!" Hydrate yourself with fracking fluid or crude oil, or simply put a Predator drone under your pillow. Suck on a nuke, and F-35 exhaust will scorch phlegm from your respiratory tract. But wrap your home in plastic sheeting and seal it with duct tape. Remain calm. You're safe. There's a wall to your west, and boots are on the ground slogging over shithole countries. Remember, bases ring the globe. Count bases if you're experiencing difficulty getting to sleep. Play war games or practice military exercises. Social distance yourself from anyone sneezing, spraying tiny droplets of health care for all, or contagious germs of housing the unhoused, or living wages. And this piece here is on the current edition of Black Agenda Report, which you can access at blackagendareport.com every Wednesday. This is called Lawless Low Bars, Depths of Depravity. Brutal boss tweet extorts the border. Lawless lowbar exclaims law and order. Campaign manager masquerading as proper copper. Third Reich thug, mirror avoiding criminal crime stopper. Church front photo op calling corrupt top cop. Old lawless low bar, realities are. William the redactor, a very bad actor. Highly improper, corrupt top copper. Striking stone with Flynn, pardonable sin. Flintstones of the world, swastikas unfurled. Was his thuggish Portland show the last straw? Recusing himself from the rule of law. Should Lobar disbar and arrest himself, spend the rest of his life on an ice shelf? Bingo. So we'll leave it there and we'll pick it up. The thing I would encourage those of you who may be interested in the work I'm going, the direction I'm going, you can catch us on the 8th of November for the 4th episode of An Intimate Evening with the Town Crier. And anyone interested, I'll put my email address in the chat and you can email me and then we'll send the link and the code and all that password business. And we'll see you then if you're interested. So thank you very much again, Nia and company, and keep holding the space in this magnificent place.
Thank you so much, Raymond, for both of those pieces, and congrats on the publications. Very, very exciting. Also, we're going to be reading together on Saturday for Avacha's monthly curation.
Ooh, thank you. I would have never been forgiven. Thank you. Thank you.
Raymond and I will be reading. We will remember. We'll be reading this Saturday together for Avacha's monthly curation, the music of the word La Palabra Musical. So that's at 3 p.m. on Zoom. So please. And with that, I would like to invite Lorraine Bonner up to the mic. Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you so much, Nia. Thank you for this space, and I'm so grateful to be able to read here. This is a poem a little bit longer than my previous pieces. It's called Clipper Ship. I am running up the hill to catch the bus. My county bus pass is called Clipper, a ship I will sail out to the farthest star, the place where it all starts, nebulae and black holes, the dark that was before there was light. Like the black of Africa, before the Clipper ships arrived to trade guns for land and lives. The giant energy gyroscope at the heart of Africa, where everyone first learned to be human, the center of the universe, where cosmic webworks emerge, the net we call Ubuntu. I am because we are. And I am on the bus to the beginning of time, to the vocal cords of God as it spoke the word that set harmonics vibrating like sunlight shivering through blue on the spider's web. God calls, I am, and we sing back, we are. And I feel the fear in me. I know my songs, they do not vibrate. When the bus gets to God, will God love me? My heart buried in a stone coffin, will God see me? The bus has stopped at the throat of God. Time has slowed. Each large note, big enough to birth a star, shrouded in harmonics, planets, oceans, mountains, and a small wave, almost a whisper, heads for the place where my heart used to be. I hold my breath, trying not to want, trying, wanting, and afraid to want. It feels like life, afraid to want. The whisper keeps coming, like the yearning for freedom keeps coming, the yearning for love. The whisper listens to the scar, lifts the lid of the stone coffin, sings to the huddled heart. The whisper is because the stars are. It is the morning and the evening of the first day.
That was absolutely beautiful, Lorraine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, I would like to invite Norm Maddox to the mic. Welcome, Norm.
Hey, how y'all doing? Okay, so I have two pieces. This first piece is called Positional Asphyxia. An attack on civil society, that would be the knee on my neck. I am civil society. Problem is, you didn't call for reinforcements when your partner's knee closed up my air supply. Calling on the National Guard is just bringing a larger knee. Why didn't they call the National Guard on the police? Looks like abdication to me. Someone gave up caring about safety. So now they got another name for what they didn't do to George Floyd. Now we can suspend disbelief that all of us witnessed a recorded, inappropriate restraining technique, a chokehold held for too long, a lynching that would be gravity's fault, a fucking murder by uniform. And they say George Floyd didn't die from positional asphyxia, that George Floyd died of underlying health issues. Yeah, no. I can think of two underlying health issues that many of us already live with and many of us already die from. One, George Floyd was born with too much melanin in his armor, considered a disability in this America. Two, George Floyd choked to death on the acid and bile rising in his throat, mixed with fear, hate, and racism blocking his windpipe. I can't breathe. This other piece is called Perfect in My Imperfections. Falling down was something to be avoided. Learn to crawl after being born, knowing how to fly, remembering I had legs to walk and wings to hide, because I'm odd enough to be ignored. Bound to earth and her gravity brings me back to her, no matter how far I can fly by myself. She and gravity remind me of her love, feeding me, sheltering me, bringing me closer to how love feels. Gravity and the balance of equanimity, the bandwidth between Gaia Mundo and heaven. Peace.
Thank you, Norm. Thank you for both of those. Ever timely and relevant and beautiful. So I appreciate your words.
Thank you, peace.
Next up, I would like to invite Kay Eltine up to the mic. So glad to have you again. I think you're still on mute right now.
Oh my God, sorry. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for that beautiful piece. That was very moving. Living in a country where I don't always get to hear poetry, especially in English, it's such an honor to just be amongst you guys in the evening. Thank you very much for this space. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to be reading some pieces that originally I wrote for the book, but didn't make it to the book. Some of these pieces I still really love, but they just kind of didn't. In the end, there was not space for them. So one of them is called DNA, Drifting Nowhere Always. You beg for the secrets of my skin. I wonder if you've ever walked barefoot through a river. You return to the night of my arms to hide from the world promised to you, the one I cannot save you from because there, I'm invisible as you are. Lost as the gold of my people, exiled as the belly of stones strewn by rivers. Human as hatred taught by men, torn between glories I cannot return to. I'm from the land of burnt faces. When you reach to console me, I'm nowhere, like ashes and the truth. That's my first piece, and second piece is called Perfect. My older brother got all the attention with mama's hazel eyes and straight hair. She still keeps a photo of when he wore it long, 14 in his White Sox uniform. Hair like a waterfall framing his face. People thought he was Indian. That was before we moved to Khartoum. There, he shaved it off and changed forever. Mama's eye wouldn't stop twitching the night my sister went camping with her Girl Scout troop. So she followed her gut and brought my sister home, hair half straightened by the troop leader who told her she'd look perfect. That's it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for both of those pieces. And it's exciting hearing pieces that may not have been included in the book, but are still really lovely. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Kay will be our teacher in 2 weeks, actually, on November 5th. So
I'm
join
very
us.
excited. I'm very excited.
Really wonderful. Just to hear more of a sampling of your work. So thank you. And to close us out this evening, I'm very excited to introduce and invite up to the mic Yeba Johnson. Welcome, Yeba.
Nia, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you everyone who's here. And Wanda, I loved your reading, and I loved this open mic. It was fantastic. I have 2 short poems. As some of you know, I do it with music, so I'll play a little before and after. One is short, and the second one is shorter. So. Why I'm not a cross-country runner. Cars may no longer exist by the time I feel comfortable maneuvering a vehicle, driving while Black. The stark terror now understood as an epigenetic phenomenon, a response to the multi-tentacled monster designed to control Black bodies in motion, to control Black people conveying themselves to work or hither and yon, no matter the notion, for purposes private, mundane, frivolous, or necessary. My bones have grown fragile, and I cannot withstand the taser being trussed the chokehold, or the baton. So whether in a car, atop a bicycle, or even on foot, I keep eyes out at night and also when it's light, although with age, I lose my sight. This is Rehabilitated Ars Poetica. Where once wings were clipped, new stumps have emerged to beat back the wind's currents so that the tongue once more sails aloft to release the voice that sets the spirit free. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you so much, Eva. That was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
The music and the poetry, the combination is incredible. So thank you.
All right.
I want to thank all of you this evening for joining us and creating this space. It's felt so full. Just the range of poems and music and the ancestors that have been brought into this space have been absolutely wonderful. So as always, I appreciate everyone's attendance and support. And if you are able to financially support the museum, we appreciate that as well. You're able to make donations through our website, which is moadsf.org. Elizabeth is also sharing on the screen here information about giving donations via text. So you can text the number 56512 and type MOAD-SF. And we also value your feedback. So we would love to know what more we can be doing to support our communities. So the QR code on the screen will actually direct you to a quick program survey where you can give us some feedback about this program experience. And I invite everyone to continue attending our programs. This open mic series happens every other week. The next one will be on November 5th. And again, we will have KLTNA being our feature. So please do come back and support that. And I would like to wish everyone a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Get home safe, everyone.
That's great poetry, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.